Hey everyone, welcome to the Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate, brought to you by drroto.com. Get your daily prescription for fantasy sports. Tate, football is back. It's official. It has started. We're in preseason swing. How excited are you? I'm excited. Can you tell?
A little bit. I can hear it in your voice. Football, I love you. I missed you. Don't ever leave me again.
We
Hugs.
we we go through this every year of just like this withdrawal phase of just horrible heartache and foam of everyone else is having fun with their sports and I can't have fun with mine because football's not back. But it's back. Thank God. It's back, baby. It's let's go. All the drafts are happening. All the content is coming out there. We've got the news. We've already got injuries happening. I know. It comes with every year. It's just what we have to get through. But guys, if you are tuning in, please hit like and subscribe if you could. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions for your upcoming drafts, please throw them in the chat, and Derek and I will be happy to get to those for you. Today, we're just going to be talking about players that we're targeting in early, mid, and late rounds. We can talk about player news as we get through those picks. I feel like we're going to naturally come across them. But Tate, let's start off with just an early first round. I mean, if you want to talk maybe a little bit about your first 2 round strategies, I think that helps in your consideration for your early target. So is there a strategy in particular that you're just honing in on this season? I'm going 0 RB, or is there other things that you're definitely going to be doing to kick off your draft?
So strategies that I continue to kind of find myself implementing, going elite wide receiver early. And by elite, I kind of have it 4 receivers that I believe that are truly elite this year. And this is just my take, so feel free to throw stuff at me in the comments or yell at me, scream at me, tell me I'm stupid. I get it. I am. But this is
our show. These are our takes, so go for it, please.
I know. It's the debate. You're supposed to tell me I'm stupid too, Sam. I mean, you're supposed to be with the masses, and most of the people are part of the Sam army. I get it. But this is where I keep kind of finding myself, right? I love myself some Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and personally, I'm still a believer in Devonte Adams as an elite receiver until further notice. And maybe even the 5th wide receiver I kind of want to throw in there is Stefan Diggs. I think Diggs and the Buffalo Bills offense, I know you're high on the Bills. I think they're going to do some big things. But the guy that I really would love to come away with in the first round or even 15 picks, late second, if you're playing with some guys that, I mean, maybe you're a little amateur, Justin Jefferson. I personally think that the change of head coach with Mike Zimmer out and that McVay Christmas coaching tree, Sam, just continues to send presents across the country. And we've got an offensive-minded head coach now in Minnesota. And if you go back to Justin Jefferson back at LSU, he predominantly played out of the slot. And we just didn't see a whole ton of 3 receiver sets from the Minnesota Vikings. And that means that Justin Jefferson's been spending a lot of time and succeeding and excelling out on the edge. But you bring in the Rams kind of offensive principles and that kind of framework. I don't see why Justin Jefferson can't have a Cooper Kupp type of season. I know Cooper Kupp was all-time great, like literally winning the Triple Crown in every category as far as receiving stats go. But that's the type of ceiling that I see for Justin Jefferson in 2022. Go ahead and tell me I'm crazy, but of this elite group, I honestly believe that Justin Jefferson has a real chance at finishing the season as the wide receiver 1.
I definitely think he has a chance. I think I'm more excited about grabbing someone like Jamar Chase off the board. I feel like he is also someone where the volume is going to be king. It's going to just not stop the rest of the season. I think there might be some games where game script just flips and it's not in Jefferson's favor with the Vikings. And so there's only a couple things that make me nervous about him, but we're nitpicking top players. So these are really just the tiniest of nitpicks. I still love Justin Jefferson. If I'm drafting towards the end of the first round and he is right there and available for me, I will happily grab him. For me, in most drafts where I'm taking players right now, I love my early picks and I love if I'm in the first 4 to go running back immediately. But if I am later, I prefer a later pick. I'm with you on leaving that first round with an elite wide receiver. I do like Jefferson. Like I said, I have Chase just slightly above him, But
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of great value in those first rounds for receivers. So even if you didn't grab one in the first round, the second round receivers right there, I think are just as good and just as talented. One in particular I think is just going to have a crazy amount of volume this year is CeeDee Lamb. And I think that he is someone that's going to win a lot of people, a lot of leagues this year, because Dak Prescott's going to have himself a big season. He's healthy. And I feel like with all the receivers they have injured right now, CeeDee Lamb is going to have to show up, and he's got the athleticism to do so. I'm excited to have him in as many leagues as I can.
What's weird about this entire Dallas Cowboys team is it feels like they've gotten kind of worse, right? Like, they're a year older along the offensive line unit. They lost La'el Collins to the Cincinnati Bengals. You look that they traded away Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns. And they did this knowing that Michael Gallup is coming off of a significant injury that's probably going to have him on the shelf to start the year. And I know that they drafted Jalen Tolbert, but it's a rookie wide receiver and a team that won the NFC East last year. And really, CeeDee Lamb is the only guy left. I mean, that's like him and Dalton Schultz as like reliable targets for Dak Prescott. So CeeDee is going to eat early and often and really throughout the entire season. I definitely have him as kind of a contender to kind of break into the top 5 this year. I don't think he heads wide receiver 1 with all the other elite options, but I do think that there's a strong chance that he actually finishes inside the top 5.
I agree. I think that just volume is king. And when you're looking for any fantasy value anywhere, especially in your first picks, you just want to make sure that you're taking someone that is going to have the highest possible floor. And I feel like the floor is so high. And then the ceilings goes even higher for Lamb just with the volume they're going to have with that offense. So I'm excited for him this season. I feel like the next couple rounds, when you go down the list of players that you're liking, is there a running back 2 you're targeting? If you're going to be going, wide receiver early, are there some running backs in those 3rd, 4th rounds that you're in particular targeting?
Yeah. I mean, in particular, I think in the 3rd round, a guy that really has me intrigued is James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals. If you look at some of the split, I mean, first off, Conner had a fantastic year, right? I mean, regardless of however you want to go ahead and dissect his production, I thought that he kind of had I don't want to call him a fantasy zombie because I didn't consider him dead, but I mean, holy hell, like I thought his days of being a running back 1 option were all but over in fantasy. He kind of took control of that role there in Arizona, made the most of his opportunity, and he's really teed up to be what I think is the best option, if not the bell cow of this Arizona offense and this team that got off to a great start last year. And one thing, Sam, that really makes me feel like encouraged that this is not a one-hit wonder. They didn't bring back Chase Edmonds, and James Conner's involvement in the passing game when Chase Edmonds was not in the lineup last year was very, very, very encouraging. And it's even more encouraging that D-Hop's not going to be there for the first 6 weeks. So things are lining up pretty well for Conner to be, I think, a slam dunk of a running back 2 that I think you can get in the mid to early 3rd round.
No, I think that's a really great pick. And, I loved seeing the resurgence of James Conner. I feel like he's a player that, is, as a former Steeler, always will be in my heart. Definitely love, part of the family. But he's also just a fantastic player off the field as well, just fantastic person. So I love to see those people just finally, have amazing seasons. And it feels like there was a lot of reaping was sown, which was a lot of good karma coming back his way with a lot of amazing, in terms of fantasy, he was fantastic. Right. And just in terms of on the field play, what he was getting, just the confidence that they were showing in him and his utilization. Especially like you said in the passing game, I feel like when you can get a running back like him in those later rounds, that's fantastic PR that you're getting right there with a good floor, with an offense that is going to be very high powered.
I'm really excited to see what this Arizona offense is going to look like too. I mean, you bring in Hollywood Brown and you bring back Zach Ertz. And there was just something that was a little off with Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals to finish the season when he came back from injury. Wasn't really, they weren't able to recapture that magic. I think that Kyler is going to be a guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder with this weird contract addendum thing that we don't have to get into. I think he's going to still ball out this year. And if Kyler balls out, then there's going to be scoring opportunities aplenty for your boy, James Conner.
Oh, plenty of opportunities for him. I did a drawing this week of Kyler Murray for Fantasy Life, and it's gamer themed, so hopefully you appreciate it. Yeah, you'll have to go check that out on the IG.
Did you turn him into Mario or something? Jumpman?
No, I just made him look like, a player that you're grabbing and on a video game, and he's just like, he's got like the power levels next to him, and he's just got this like very energetic gamer color vibe. It was very yeah, spicy. I'm looking at players in those rounds near James Conner, and there's two receivers back to back in ADP that I think are really interesting just in terms of the volume for their respective offenses. That's Deontay Johnson and Michael Pittman Jr. for the Colts. Quickly on Johnson, because I don't want to belabor the Steelers takes and just add to the fandom. But one, he got paid. Great. Love that. Moving on to the year, it's his wide receiver role one to have, and that is it. So you have an amazing floor where he's going to get at least 1,000 yards this season, probably more because the Steelers will probably be playing behind in a couple of games more often than not. So it's a game script that really feeds well into all of his athleticism, everything that he's going to do for you in that role. So I love him there. And then for Michael Pittman, I feel like the ghost of Ryan could be coming back with this Colts offense. And I think that because of him, there's going to be a good resurgence to the passing game that's not only going to help Jonathan Taylor get more open, but I think it's going to feed someone like Pittman that's going to make him very valuable, getting him in these third, fourth rounds of your drafts.
If you had to choose between the two, who are you taking?
If I had to choose between the two,
pick with your with your head, Sam, not your heart.
If I went with my head and not my heart, and knowing that I don't end up with a lot of my Steelers players almost on purpose, I would take Michael Pittman just because I feel like he's going to have very consistent usage. I am very confident that Deontay is going to have a good season, no matter who's the quarterback under center, because I have all my faith in Mike Tomlin to do what he needs to do to win games. And I think that that's going to happen. But I like the upside that Pittman possibly has with Matt Ryan. And I think that there's a little bit more of a push there. So I think that I have the edge there, Pittman, and take him over, which on some ADPs, he's currently going just behind Deontay. So, hey, I can be unbiased. Look at me.
You can. That's very nice. I'm very proud of you, Sam. I'm kind of wondering, though, like, how much higher is the ceiling with that Colts offense with Matt Ryan under center? I mean, I certainly trust him more than I trust anybody under center right now for the Steelers. And to be honest with you, Michael Pittman has far fewer, talented wide receivers to deal with for targets than Michael Pittman does. So I'm with you. That's why I think Michael Pittman is the better option.
Yeah, less contested in the backfield. Like it is his without a question. Will Claypool sometimes have some big games? Absolutely. A lot of good stuff coming out of George Pickens in camp right now. So there's a lot of hype. I think that maybe Trubisky or Pickett will have to spread the ball out a little bit more to stay dynamic in the game script, just because we haven't shored up our offensive line as much as we should have. We didn't do our homework this offseason. So we're going to have to be running a very quick offense, which might mean that they're spreading the ball out a little bit more. So I agree with you. I think that there is going to be a little bit more of an edge to Pittman in that the volume is being more consistent and higher week in and week out for him.
Okay. Well, look, I have nothing against, either of those picks. I mean, I think that Deontay Johnson right now, and I'm looking at Fantasy Pros ADP at the current moment, trying to go ahead and, get an idea of where these, players are all going, where I would like them, where I take them, and where I have taken guys in some of the drafts that I have done. I got to tell you, though, right now at wide receiver 27 and at wide receiver 29 are two guys that were teammates. And that is what I'm looking at right now. About 15 wide receivers later than Deontay Johnson, 13 and 15 respectively. Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson. And I think that their two situations, right, are vastly different, but for good reasons. Allen Robinson fell out of favor with the last coaching staff there in Chicago and was dealing with a rookie quarterback in Justin Fields that was the victim of a mess of a front office and a mess of a coaching staff and a guy that was in and over his head. I truly believe Justin Fields will be far better fantasy-wise than people are willing to give him a little bit of credit for. He's going very overlooked right now. What's being overlooked too? Who else is there in Chicago that's going to see targets outside of Darnell Mooney? I mean, can you tell me confidently that any other wide receiver is going to see 70 targets this year?
No.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we're probably getting a bunch of guys that have like 30 and 40. But
no, I mean, for that reason, I'm high on someone like Cole Kmet at the tight end position there because someone else is going to have to get a lot of targets. And I feel like he's a good red zone threat and a good safety blanket for Fields. But I agree with you. I think that Mooney has so much opportunity there. And that's, when you're looking again to draft anyone in these positions, you're looking for easiest route to opportunity and volume. And I think that both of these moves speak well to that. I had Allen Robinson on my list as mid targets as well. So it's like we're copying each other's notes. We're not debating much. I feel like we're going to find a player that we can very much disagree on. It's going to happen later. I feel it. It's happening. But
well, I'm just saying like in Allen Robinson, is it crazy that he's actually younger than Cooper Kupp?
Really?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Allen Robinson is younger. He's younger than Cooper Kupp. And we've seen Allen Robinson have success before, and we've seen him have success, fantasy success, major fantasy success with horrible quarterback play. Matthew Stafford is by far and away the best quarterback that Allen Robinson has ever played with, and he's got someone that won the receiving Triple Crown to help take basically attention away from Allen Robinson, who can thrive in, I think, what I think is going to be possibly a 1A, 1B type of scenario there in Los Angeles as far as the passing attack goes. So I think Robinson right now, even though he's not the number one in his offense, I still think that there's a strong chance he finishes the year as a top 20 wide receiver.
I agree. And that's why he's on my list as well. We've got a question here in the chat that I want to get to, though. This one from Trey. Thank you so much for the question. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you. He says he has a half-point PPR redraft. Would you rank Ayuk, London, and Kirk from 1 through 3? So we're going to give them numbers 1, 2, and 3 between these three players. Brandon Ayuk, Drake London, Christian Kirk.
I don't like having to talk about Brandon Ayuk because that guy drives me absolutely bonkers. I think he's got all the talent in the world. And certainly Trey Lance, seen him throw a couple dimes, couple deep balls, little training camp hype rolling there in San Francisco. I mean, of these guys, the ceiling that I see the highest is Ayuk. I think Kirk comes in second for me just because I do think that Trevor Lawrence takes a nice step in year 2. And London, even though I think he'll probably lead his team in targets or be right there with Kyle Pitts, I just don't know what the hell to expect from what's going to be under center between Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder or whoever. So London, just because as much as I want to feel confident in his floor, I don't know what that's going to look like and what the passing opportunities, how quality they're going to be for him this year.
I totally agree. And I also think that, the key here in your question, Trey, is redraft, because when I see the name Drake London, I get excited because I play so much Dynasty. I'm stashing him in those situations. But in redraft, he's someone that I would agree with Tate and I'd almost avoid because it is such a question mark. And when we're looking at those players in our current ADP, all very close together, it's just really there's not enough upside and not enough hope that's going to make me want to pick him over the other two. So for me, London would also have to go 3 in that spot. And I do think that it would go Ayuk and then Christian Kirk as well. I feel like Jacksonville is going to have to go anywhere but up. Like they're going to have to continue to get better because they no longer have to deal with Urban Meyer and the madness that was happening with that coaching system. Clearly, it's not necessarily looking the best for them in tonight's game. Last I checked at halftime, they were down 0-20, but it's preseason, so no one's really.
Right? You want to know how much of a degenerate I am, Trey and Sam? I actually bet on a preseason game.
You bet? Is it just because you're like so excited football's back? You won?
Did you
take the bet that they would be scoreless by half?
I bet that the Raiders would score more than 15 points in the first half.
Love that. I love it for you.
It worked. It worked, and I also took them for the spread for I think 2.5 points. I am such a degenerate. Who knows? Are the Jags coming back? Because if they are, I'm going to be really pissed off. You're going to see my mood.
20-3 in the third, so you're okay. 20-3.
I'm all right now. All right, good.
Right. I'm glad we could get that question for you. If you have any others, please throw them our way. That was a good one. I like those kind of tight ADP questions because we aren't going back and forth between redraft and dynasty. I feel like the preseason is where you can get very easily wooed by these rookie receivers or rookie players because you're like, oh, they're going to be the new one. It's like, okay. But in redraft, you need to go with having a floor of knowing what you're getting every week. And I want to make sure I know that. If he had gone to someone like, if Drake London had with Patrick Mahomes, the conversation would be a little bit different. But I think because we don't know 100% what we're getting out of the quarterback under center there, that's the reason why we're like, I have a question and not that much excitement.
I love him as a prospect. I think he's going to have a great career. It's really, really his production on a week-to-week basis outside of, probably getting about 5 to 7 targets, which is nice, but the quality of those targets, I just don't know if the consistency is going to be there. And that's just, I'd rather try to swing for the fences in that case. I think Kirk has a higher floor and Ayuk has the ceiling that could really be almost kind of like league winning potential if Trey Lance hits like we hope he will. So good luck.
Rolling the dice. No, definitely. Good luck with that one. And I really appreciate you guys, Kyle, being in the chat and Mr. Scampers as well. He says that A-Rob is 2 months younger than Cooper Kupp. I still, my mind is blown and I can't get past it. So we'll have to move on to other players later in our ADP in terms of who we are targeting. Okay, let's reach a little bit deeper. We talked a bit about receivers. Is there a running back next, maybe down a couple rounds, that you're targeting late?
So I want to stack this running back group because I think in the middle rounds, if you missed on the position and you don't get your guys like, Travis Etienne or Elijah Mitchell or something like that, I personally really want to invest in this offense at the running back position, the Seattle Seahawks. I think that they're going to be running the football because God knows if you're going to rely on Drew Lock to drive your offense, it may be a rough season. But I do believe I've always believed in the talent of Rashad Penny, who finished the year incredibly strong. And then I think Kenneth Walker is right there with Breece Hall as a great running back prospect that has a lot of boom potential. If I see it, I think that they're both going to be productive in moments. I think that Penny's going to have first crack at it, kind of the veteran getting the starting nod to start the season. And then we'll see somewhere around week 4, week 6, that Kenneth Walker starts to see more looks, more touches. And I think he's ultimately going to be the guy that takes the position later in the season. But right now, their drafts price is not all that expensive. If you don't want to invest in both of them and say back-to-back picks in like the 7th and 8th round, then, go ahead and just take one of them. Personally, I'd rather have Kenneth Walker for the late season upside that I see him having.
No, I definitely love that as well. I feel like we were just talking about rookies in redraft, and this is a scenario where I would actually pivot and say, like, this is a rookie that I would go ahead and grab just because, like you're saying, the game script really feeds into helping his potential and helping him have a higher upside this season, even for redraft. If you're getting a running back late, I definitely like him there as well. And someone that I think that is going to still be, very active and used frequent and often, Melvin Gordon. I mean, not that exciting of a pick when you look about usage, but I think he's not going away quickly. So I think he's someone
pretty damn good pick.
He's a pretty good flex for like a lot of leagues. And he's someone that is getting forgotten on a lot of teams. And you look at the way that the splits went last season, it was hairlines across the board, across stats. And they finished, I think, maybe 10 spots away from each other, him and Devonte. So I feel like that's a very solid late pick. That's going to be a sneaky grab for you in later drafts. Wait, Mr. Scampers has a running back question that I think is going to go really well between these two. He says, Nyheim Hines or Dameon Pierce in half-point PPR redraft?
There's no way it's not Dameon Pierce for me.
Okay.
That PPR, modifier. Hines, yeah, sometimes maybe he gets a nice game where he, sees somewhere around 7 to 10 touches. He catches 5 passes, which is nice in a PPR. But I mean, it's way too hard to predict. Way too tough. That offense runs through Jonathan Taylor, as we all know. So at least Dameon Pierce has the upside of winning the backfield outright and potentially winning a bell cow role. For me, I think it's an easy Dameon Pierce dart throw I'd rather have than, a middling PPR deep flex option at best, unless, and maybe you can even make a case that he's Jonathan Taylor's handcuff. I wouldn't even go that far.
No, I don't think you can make that argument. I think that's where the argument drops off when you're looking at handcuffs across the league, because, apples to apples, it's like, I don't know, like apples to cucumbers. Like it's much different. Like it's far more different between like Nyheim Hines and like Jonathan Taylor. Like it's fruit and vegetables. They're very, very different. Like I feel like they just cannot be handcuffed together.
Where are you going with this analogy? Like, I mean, I feel like you're arriving at lamb and tuna fish.
Lamb and tuna fish is very different. But I feel like when I have to pick between the two, I love the upside, like you were saying with Dameon Pierce. He has so much more of a path to win that backfield, and I feel like it makes way more sense. Okay, Mr. Scampers is pivoting, and he wants to know Nyheim Hines or Marlon Mack then. I still feel like Marlon Mack hasn't taken the opportunities given to him and just run with them, pun intended. So I feel like I still have more faith in Dameon Pierce carving out a role for himself on that offense than I have with Marlon Mack.
I'm going to make the same exact argument for Marlon Mack that I was going to make with Dameon Pierce. The upside is that he's the lead dog in the Houston backfield. So I think that the upside is there enough with both players from the Houston backfield that I'd rather have a share of them and a chance of hitting a pop guy that can actually make a significant impact on my roster rather than Nyheim Hines, who, I mean, I could see you dropping Nyheim Hines after a month into the season, unless, of course, Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, which, knocking on wood, I am not trying to talk that into existence.
No, but I think with Matt Ryan under center there, I don't think that the pivot is going to force someone else to be Jonathan Taylor. I think it's, we're going to have to get the passing game to be going and firing on all cylinders, and then that more weight gets put on players like Pittman. So I don't feel like they can create another, like you can't clone Jonathan Taylor when you don't have that in the backup. I feel like handcuffs only work well when you have the exact similar setup of a player right behind them. I don't think that that's the case here.
Okay.
But yeah, that's for me, that's that. And then Kyle jumping in here saying, could Melvin Gordon have more touchdowns than Williams in 2022? I certainly think so. I think it could be close. So that's why I feel like he's definitely a steal in later drafts. And then Kyle wants to know, would the answer change in full point PPR? Would it be Hines ahead of either Houston running back in that case?
Not for me. Again, I just don't, there's not a high enough floor to get excited about Nyheim Hines.
I know,
if this was James, if we were going to see like James White type of volume in the passing game, then I'd feel okay. I get your point, but you can't guarantee, you can't convince me that he's going to see that type of volume on a week to week basis, which then means it renders him useless on my roster outside of like a desperate PPR deep flex option. And knowing me, that I'm the fantasy hipster and I like to try to take chances and seem like I'm super right, I'm probably going to start Kyle Phillips in the rookie out of UCLA as like a, tertiary slot demon option over the likes of Nyheim Hines. So I swing and miss a lot, but I'll do the best I can.
The slot demon option. I wasn't really expecting that. All right, let's pick.
You don't watch Game of Thrones. I mean, the little midget though, Peter Dinklage plays a great character named Tyrion Lannister, and they used to call him a demon monkey. I don't know why that stuck in my head, and I'm not thinking that Kyle Phillips, you're not a demon monkey. I apologize. I'm just like, there's no correlation between the two thoughts. I apologize. Let's move on. Next question.
we've gone a little off the rails, but that's okay. It normally happens around the 29-minute mark. It's fine. Kyle's saying his only hesitation is with the Texas O-line. Not sure if those backs have much upside. I mean, I think that with the Texans are in a rebuild, and they're in a heavy rebuild. And so we're going to be seeing stuff for the next couple of years that is just trying to put stuff together and making it work. And last year I felt like they did decently for getting fantasy points on the board for having what felt like a wasteland of an offense that you were completely avoiding. I feel
there
like
was no shot in hell that David Culley should have been fired. Like, to me, like, the head coach should not have been fired. I thought he did a great job getting that team to actually fight and compete. And I thought Davis Mills newsflash, Davis Mills in a 2-quarterback league should be rostered 100%. Do not overlook him. I thought he played really damn well to finish the year last season. I still think he's going to be a sneaky quarterback 2 option, has a chance to finish inside the top 20 at the position. Say what you want. If you think that's crazy, I don't give a shit. Davis Mills played really good football to finish the year last year. Rant over.
Rant. I agree with your rant. I mirror that rant. I feel like he's a forgotten player that, again, could finish the season much higher than we think. And I know, the O-line is a little scary now, but I think, similar to the Steelers and what they're dealing with, what that means is volume, because they're going to be playing from behind because they have to have a really quick offense. And I think that's just going to benefit those players in having to learn quickly on the job. And so I'm excited to see what this offense is going to do and put together. Is there a last player you want to talk about before we wrap this up, Tate? Anyone scrolling ADP that you just love super late? Maybe there's
outside of Kyle Phillips?
That was deep. That felt like a deep dig. It was buried.
I mean, there's a handful of rookie running back lottery tickets that I mean, personally, I'm willing to throw a couple darts at. I'd be interested to see if Isaiah Spiller will be able to win the number 2 role behind Austin Eckler. They're really looking to get some sort of compliment to Eckler. And I think whoever that number 2 option is probably going to see north of 120 carries. Given that I think that they really want to save Eckler and not have him be the lead dog. But I don't want to say that from a fantasy perspective because I know he's a fantasy darling, but Isaiah Spiller certainly intrigues me. Also, so does the likes of Rachaad White. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I think it's going to take White a little bit of time to earn Tom Brady's trust. But, Leonard Fournette came in to camp a little heavier than we had hoped here in the Tampa Bay area. I think that Rachaad White's skill set complements that of Leonard Fournette very well. He's more of a slasher, very slippery out in space. He's certainly a plus in the passing game. It's just really pass protection that kind of worries me about Rachaad White getting on the field early on. But those 2 running backs definitely jump out to me. I think but what are your thoughts on those guys before I keep rattling off like last round guys that I want to keep getting on my roster?
Those are both really good late round picks. I mean, I think when you're looking at the running game or the receiving game on any given team and you just see a clear path to opportunity, I think that's where there's value. And I feel like that is definitely a path that I like for those players. And very similarly, I was just going to pull up the ones that I feel like I'm very excited about. When you look at the receiving core for the Packers, I feel like there's a very clear and vacant void that needs to be filled. And I think we all know where that's going, but I'm excited to see who could probably walk into that role and maybe start to garner a lot of those targets, because Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, they were there last year, Amari Rodgers, but those weren't players that really took any opportunity that was given. Did they catch a couple passes? Sure. But did any of them really turn out to be the true wide receiver 2? We've been looking for this true wide receiver 2 for years. Well, now we need a wide receiver 1. So there's even more opportunity for these players to jump up. There's been a lot of good talk about Romeo Dabz in training camp, and there's a lot of hype around him. Even Rodgers is talking about him, and he's very excited about him. I think you watch Aaron Rodgers in training camp and you pay attention to what he's talking about, because as soon as he finds a new best bud, that's going to be the guy, because we know how picky Aaron Rodgers is with his receivers. So I think that's a training camp that I'm definitely paying a lot of attention to. Definitely love him. Christian Watson as well. He's dinged up, but we want to get excited about these new rookies coming in because previous veterans haven't taken the leap forward that they've needed to. So why not these rookies? I think they're really late round picks that you can grab, and there's really good value in those late round picks. That's what you're hoping for in these late targets too, is just high upside for you want to break out. Why not break out with a player that has someone like Aaron Rodgers throwing them the ball? Like, that's exciting to me.
Same argument can be made for someone like Sky Moore. I think that Sky Moore is someone that has an opportunity to win a healthy share of the voided targets left behind in Tyreek Hill's, beeline to South Beach. So I think that Sky Moore is someone that I'm interested in. Another receiver, Devonte Parker. Whenever Parker been able to stay healthy, and certainly see a starter's volume as far as targets goes, I think he's been able to produce. He was able to produce last year with Tua Tagovailoa under center and Jalen Waddle seeing a plethora of targets. So him now kind of leading the way in that, less than spectacular receiver room for the New England Patriots. I think that he could be Mac Jones's number one option. And then, tight ends. Isn't everybody a top 12 tight end? Can't you make a case
Everyone
for
has
everybody?
Yes. Which is why after the first three go, I'm not running to go in and fill that spot on my roster because there's so much possibilities with the rest of the tight end. I would much rather pad other positions on my team than jump into a middle round tight end battle. Like, there's plenty of value out there later for tight end spots.
Well, I mean, but like if you have like one or two, I mean, I really like Cole Kmet and Brevin Jordan, like for the Houston Texans. I know we were just talking about the Texans a little bit. I think that Brevin Jordan is somebody that has a lot of like physical tools, and the upside is certainly there, and an offense that really doesn't have a ton of like established weapons on the outside that are going to demand huge target shares. So I could see him being a threat in the red zone, in a Texans offense that you can pretty much get at a bargain basement price on draft day.
I mean, I definitely love that. Give me any bargain priced item. That's perfect for me. I think other late round tight ends that I also love. I mean, I'm definitely all on board with the Bills this year. I feel like I'm going to be talking about them a lot, but Dawson Knox is someone that I definitely, tight end 10 off the board. I'm not mad about Gesicki. I love there. Pat Freiermuth, I love late. Like we talked about earlier, I love Cole Kmet. I feel like there is so much opportunity for targets for him. So I would also like almost leapfrog those others and go to Cole Kmet just because he's got so much opportunity there. Mr. Scamper's saying that's like the dream stack is Davis Mills and Brevin.
Yeah, you know it, baby.
I love it.
Did you know I was a Texans fan? I'm not actually. They win 5 games this year, maybe. But
and get you a lot of fantasy points because they're playing from behind. Yay! We like the upside. That's all that matters. And Albert O as well for the Broncos, also a player that I feel like has a lot of potential for having fantasy success in that offense. It's going to be resurged by Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, and condolences to Tim Patrick, who tore his ACL earlier this week.
Sorry, someone is in desperate need of attention right now.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. And it's not me. Hi, Knox. Speaking of Dawson Knox, I get it. You're confusing your cat. Like,
He's like, you were talking about me? No, I wasn't. He has no upside. There's no upside to this cat.
That's rude. That's messed up.
He walked away. He knew.
But yeah, so, and we didn't talk about any quarterbacks. Is there one league-winning quarterback that you see as an option outside that's being drafted outside of the top 12 at their position? I'm talking like late round, final 3-4 rounds, throw as a flyer, a guy that can really take a big step this year into fantasy stardom.
I mean, if we're looking outside the top 12, Matt Ryan has a lot of potential for success there. I feel like this offense is going to help him a lot. They have a fantastic offensive line. He's going to have plenty of time. I think he's going to have a resurgence to his career and his overall targets. I think this is a great fit for him. So for me, he's someone super late that I like. and maybe in one quarterback formats and going for someone late in the drafts, I would maybe, I mean, Stafford's marked at ADP 12, but I feel like he would definitely go sooner than that. But also love Kirk Cousins. There's definitely volume there that's very consistent.
Okay.
Another not sexy pick, but like there's consistency there. So I think there's a healthy floor. Mr. Scamper's jumping in there with Daniel Jones. There's some part of me that will never draft Daniel Jones. I just no thank you. Like
do you think Brian Dable gets the most out of him though? Like, I mean, we saw the development of Josh Allen under his tutelage. I mean,
okay, for that reason, then maybe not this year, but maybe the year after. I feel like Daniel Jones needs some cooking. He needs to do some work.
They've invested in the offensive line. I do believe that Saquon Barkley is coming back healthy this year. I do. I'm not saying he's running back one. I'm saying that Saquon's healthy, and a healthy Saquon is a difference maker. Yeah. And when we're talking about some of the other options on the outside, Wandell Robinson, Lycom, explosive rookie. Last year, they drafted Kadarius Toney. I don't know what hullabaloo was going on this offseason where there were rumblings that he may be on the open market. He's in town. That dude can ball. Kenny Golladay, remove your head from your tail and start playing like the guy that I remembered back in Detroit, because I know you can ball too. There's a chance that this offense looks completely different. I'm not going to, but that being said, Mr. Scampers, I'm not betting my fantasy, career on it.
Yeah. No,
instead, can I say a guy?
Yes, you can say a guy.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to go ahead and make the suggestion that Jameis Winston might be getting a guy named Michael Thomas back. They drafted Chris Olave, and I think Chris Olave can really play. I think he's going to have an instant impact. And then whatever ends up happening with Alvin Kamara, he'll be eventually available and at the disposal of Jameis Winston. I think Winston has the opportunity potentially to really have, if Michael Thomas comes back and he's Michael Thomas and Olave is what I think he is, Winston has a chance to finish inside the top 12.
And to that point, something that you brought to my attention feels like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago, was, we also haven't seen a full year of a healthy Jameis Winston post LASIK eye surgery. So this is going to be a fantastic opportunity to have a healthy Jameis Winston who can see what he's doing and have some very talented receivers at his disposal. So I agree with you.
I'm pissed off that I even brought him up then. Like, how the hell do you not get surgery on your eyes when you're a professional athlete that is reading defenses for a living? Like,
hey, I don't know.
The hell was I thinking? I scrapped my pick. Even if he does well, I'm pissed off, and I no longer want to have him as my breakout candidate. I'll go with Zach Wilson instead, and whatever shenanigans he's pulling with, I don't know, brunches he attends with his mom.
It's more likely his mom's friends, so it's fine.
Well, I'm saying they're probably in attendance.
Oh, sure. Oh my gosh, Kyle saying, I thought that Winston needed a new brain and not new eyes. Oh my goodness. Well, maybe he has a couple things to work on. Never know. Will Jenkins jumping in here. Love you, Will Jenkins. You're the best. Drew Lock, maybe just because of the weapons there. I mean, he has upside just because he has DK Metcalf right there, but I feel like there's such a drop off in potential for someone like Lockett, and it's just, I just wrote or did a video. I've done too many projects lately to remember if I've written it down or if I've actually done a podcast on it. But I'm so out on the Seahawks receiving core because of Drew Lock. And to its point earlier, I'm so much more excited about the run game there and the potential volume that's going to have. I just don't want to risk it. And if I'm not going to risk it with the receivers, I'm not going to risk it with Drew Lock under center.
Well, I don't even know if Drew Lock's going to beat out Geno Smith. And I love you, Will, and I'm certainly all about his draft stock because he's undrafted pretty much. So, I mean, like, I'm not taking shots. I'm just, I'm pointing out the obvious that, no one is really expecting Drew Lock, which means he is a sleeper. That does mean that he's got some opportunity. with quality options on the outside. But yeah, I don't see the guy. He wasn't able to get it done with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon. Like, I mean, he had plenty of weapons in Denver. Like, it just maybe a fresh start helps him for a little bit. The leash is also going to be so short on him that if he does win the starting job and he stinks up the joint for 2 weeks, are they really going to give him the rope to like continue to play that way, or are they going to go ahead and yank him off the field? There's other guys that I'd rather have.
I agree. And at his ADP on Fantasy Pros, at least, of quarterback 35, and saying that Geno Smith is quarterback 38. The
stack. There's a stack you can get. If you punt the quarterback position, draft Geno Smith and Drew Lock in back-to-back of the final round of your fantasy draft. I think that's the way to go.
Let's end this with this question from Mr. Scampers, because it'll tie into the bet that you brought up for the game that is still currently going on, our first preseason game. We are so happy football is back. Let's get to this one. He wants to know over-under for this game was 30.5. The score is 30 currently.
I did not bet the final on the over-under, but I don't know what it is. Did the game end?
I haven't checked yet.
I'm not recording near my TV.
No, I'm just going to pull up the score. It's 27-3 in the fourth. So,
I mean, I'm going to win my spread unless like a straight disaster happens. So, Mr. Scampers, man, I'm hoping that the Raiders kick another field goal or something like that if you have the over. So, and always bet the over. Life's too short to bet the under.
I agree. 8 minutes left in it. Bet the over. It'll be fine.
Definitely.
I love it so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this latest episode of the Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate. Please check out all the other content season on DFS tools, as well as premium access to our staff for all your fantasy sports questions on the members only tab in the Discord right here at drroad.com. Tate, any final words to take us out?
No, and just until next time. Later says Tater, and I'm 2 for 2 when it comes to bets so far in the 2022 NFL season. Let's go.
Let's go. Football back. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out Dr.